What's up, everybody? It's that time of the day, that time of the week, that time of the month.
Yeah, it is.
You're listening to The Good,
The Band,
The Ugly. I'm Big Papa.
And I'm Jeff.
Oh, we've got a show.
Oh, do we ever?
Have a great show today.
Yeah. Looking forward to speaking with this gentleman.
We have been looking forward. Look at that. Almost sounds like I know what I'm doing here.
Weird.
Shut up.
Kind of weird.
How you doing, brother?
Good, man. How are you? How was your holiday?
By Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Family drama. Every holiday's family drama. But you have to love it. You know? I think that's why they only have so many holidays a year.
That's why you only have two, and they're right at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You can put up with it.
Yep.
But no, it was good.
Good.
You know, it was a good day to have everybody together, and my nephew was getting ready to. He just got. He's getting ready to be second lieutenant in the Marines. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So
very good for him.
He was home for a little while. And,
yeah, good for him.
You know how they are.
I do.
They're a little porky.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay though.
It's all right. It's fine.
You know, it's good to be porky when you have a reason to be.
Yeah.
You know.
You're right.
Kind of like our guest. Our guest today
you trying to say he's porky?
No, but he's got the reason to be.
He does.
He has written music for Cher, Kiss, Judas Priest, Michael Bolton, Kicks, and one of your all-time favorites.
One of my all-time favorite bands, Icon.
Yes. So without
further ado,
blinking or anything, Mr. Bob Halligan.
Mr. Bob Halligan,
coming
please
into the
join
studio. There it is.
There he is.
Look,
hey,
wow. Almost got a Paul McCartney vibe going.
He does.
Oh, thanks very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, well, yesterday, all my troubles seem. Anyway, you know.
I think we should have him back.
I know.
As
Paul McCartney.
Paul, but we'll spell it differently.
I know it.
Like Pal McCartney.
Pal.
Yeah.
I'm available for that.
There you go.
Good.
Bob, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Mike and Jeff. Right on.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's people don't. In case you didn't hear that, Cher, Kiss, Judas Priest, Michael Bolton, Kicks, and Icon. Click the icon.
Yeah.
I mean, these are big names. This isn't like
Icon less so, but big to Jeff. You know, I'll happily go on for hours about Icon, but. Back to you. You're the host.
No. So in other words, please don't ask as many questions as you want.
No, you can.
It's coming,
Ask
man.
all you want.
It's
ask
coming.
all you want.
Bob, how did you get your start doing this? What led you to the road of Judas Priest and all these guys?
Yeah. Well, I started writing songs in 1968 in high school, sophomore year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Had written 130 or 40 songs by the time my group, which was called Pictures, got signed to a publishing company called United Artists Music.
Okay.
And we moved from Syracuse to New York City, and I felt that my writing was being underutilized. And so I phoned up the song plugger, the person who pitches songs to artists and their managers.
Mm-hmm.
And her name was May Pang. And she's been in the news a lot lately. May Pang was John Lennon's girlfriend during the long lost weekend, which in fact lasted 18 months. So in any event, May Pang was the song plugger. And because of her experiences with John, she knew everybody in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I phoned her up on a Wednesday at 12 noon, and I said, May, who are you looking for songs for? She said, well, we need a song for Ian Lloyd from Stories. You know, the guy who did Louie, 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 Louie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she said, like your song, Full Moon. She knew my songs a little bit, but was not thrilled about them. She said, like your song, Full Moon, but a little harder, more like Foreigner. And I said, okay, well, let me see what I can come up with. I hung up the phone. I sat at the piano and wrote a song, got on the E train or the F train, I don't remember which, from Kew Gardens, Queens, into Manhattan, knocked on May's door. I've got a song. Really, that quick? Oh, that's great. And I played her note for note and word for word the song Take These Chains that appeared on the first Judas Priest album that I got a cut on. Wow. Note for note and word for word. And her famous quote, famous to me, was, "I like that. Now that I like." And she pitched it to John Waite from the Babies. Mm-hmm. You know, "I ain't missing you at all since you've been gone away." That guy. And he loved the song, but he wanted to change the lyrics around. Mm. And I was new enough, being a goofball from Syracuse, showed up at this meeting with John Waite in my goofy raincoat and my book bag and my funny umbrella and stuff. You know, and he's got his spiked hair and his scarves and,
right.
You know, we were obviously from such different worlds. And he said, "Bob, I really like the song, but I like to make it more bland." And now for a Brit, apparently that means something different than it does for Mike or Jeff or Bob. Because when we hear, "I want to make it more bland," we hear, you want to wreck it. You want to take all the spice out of it.
Right.
Sure.
So I waited until after the meeting, but I said to Maid, "I'm not doing that." Plus, I was PO'd because he really just wanted the meeting so he could kind of chase after May Pang.
Oh.
So anyway, then 2 weeks go by, and May calls me in our apartment in Kew Gardens. She says, "Bob, are you sitting down?" So I sat down. Judas Priest wants to record the song. And at the time, I didn't grow up as a heavy metal guy.
Right. Okay.
I was more Beatles, Stones, Stevie Wonder, jazz,
mm-hmm.
Chick Corea, miscellaneous, a wide swath of stuff, but not really heavy metal. Sure. More sophisticated, Steely Dan, etc. So I said, "Judas Priest," that's all I could think of is the swear word, Judas Priest.
Right.
Yeah. And I kind of sort of knew there was a group. But anyway, I'm making a long story longer, but I said, I wrote the song on the keyboard. Do they have a keyboard? No, she said, "Don't worry about it. They don't have a keyboard. They'll figure it out." And boy, did they.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was on Screaming for Vengeance, which is up there. You can't see it, up the end of my finger there. That was their biggest album. And then my wife, Linda, said, "You should write them another one. Write another Judas Priest-ish song. They may not record it, but they'll at least listen to it." Because I had the only outside song on that previous album. Mm-hmm. And I wrote them a tender love ballad called "Some Heads Are Gonna Roll."
Yeah, great song.
And thank you. And sent it to them, actually gave it to them when I was in England. And they phoned me up where I was working. Said, "Yeah, we like this one too. Hooray." So then that became the hit track, really, from Defenders of the Faith.
Yeah.
Right.
So for 2 albums in a row, I had the only outside songs with Judas Priest, which kind of elevated me to the status of heavy metal song doctor. Mm-hmm. So that's the long answer, Mike, to your question of how did that get started. It was a series of stuff that, you can't plan such things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like to say about successes like that is that it happens when opportunity meets preparedness. So meaning that I had written a lot of songs by then.
Right.
And after the first one landed, I was able to, because of my craft and experience, I was able to at least create something that was reasonably in the ballpark of what I knew they would look for.
Right. Okay.
And sure enough, there it was.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. But then
Yeah.
how do you go from you're getting labeled in a sense? It's like any good actor. You've had two
Sure.
good roles in two good movies,
Yeah.
and now you play the gangster in everything that you go, or you play the hero or something.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, we mentioned a friend of ours, a mutual friend, Joe DeVoli, and his brother is an actor.
Yeah.
And Andy plays a gangster in just about everything he's done, except for one or two different ones. And I say to him, "Andy, are you ever going to live at the end of a movie? You get whacked in every movie you're in, you know. So how do you not get just labeled the metal guy and then turn around and do something for like Cher or Michael Bolton? I mean, it's like,
well, I will tell you. I had a writing session with my friend Martin Briley, who's a British guy. This was in 1985 at his apartment on East 87th Street in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And I went down to get in the subway, and I realized I had left my address book in his apartment. So I went back, rung the bell. Oh, come on up, Bob. And when I went in, he was there with Michael Bolton. And I said, Michael, I really love your song Fool's Game that I had seen on MTV in like 1983-ish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where the guy was like a cross between Ray Charles and Lou Gramm. He had all this power, but a lot of soul too.
Right.
And he said, thank you, Bob. And he said, I've heard the song that you wrote with Martin Briley called We Could Be Giants. I love the song, and I love your vocal on the demo recording. So we kind of had a mutual admiration society right off the bat.
Right.
And then a week or two went by, and Michael's publisher contacted my manager and said, Michael would like to write with Bob. And I said, great, that'll be good. So in 1986, we started, and we ended up writing 9 songs over a period of 4 years. 7 of them got recorded, and 6 of them on major records. But the thing that came out that relating to your question, Mike, is Michael said to me, I knew you wrote Take These Chains and Some Heads Are Gonna Roll, and I understood, but I heard in those heavy records that you're essentially a pop writer. So that was the magic moment. Mm-hmm. That was the right place, right time factor in allowing me to branch out and do something other than the super heavy stuff. Because Michael could hear it and believed in it and took a bet on it. So God bless him.
That's something you don't see that.
No, you don't.
I mean, it took the right ear and somebody who's honed at their craft to sit back and hear that and be able to decipher it. It's funny when you hear the artist can change it.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, words and music can be portrayed such a different way, no matter who's if you have 2 different musicians playing the same song, their interpretation could be so different. So it's cool that he heard something, out of that. Too bad he didn't, try to re-image Judas Priest song as a Michael.
Oh, yeah.
So that right. Now, today they would do that.
They would.
Because there's not as, I don't think the writing is out there today as there was in the 80s. I mean, that's just my personal.
No, and I agree.
Well, your opinions align with my successful period of my career, so I'm with you guys.
Great.
So, with Michael, you collaborated and you sat and you wrote together. With Judas Priest, you kind of turned in a finished project.
Exactly right. I wrote for them, sent it in the mail-ish.
Right.
And they said yes.
Now, did you collaborate or did you write for Cher the same way? Or did you?
With Cher, the first one, which is, it's up there at the end of my finger, one of those guys. First one was one of the songs that I wrote with Michael Bolton. And Michael was producing maybe 3 or 4 tracks on the album.
Okay.
And so that was the in for the Cher situation.
Sure.
We were already in terms of them giving a good listen to whatever Michael was going to submit.
Right.
And at first, he submitted our song. It was called Still in Love with You. Of course, Michael sings it like a 4th higher than I can.
Right.
But amazing vocal.
Oh,
guys, if you're sitting shoulder to shoulder with that voice, and I know his records got overplayed, etc. But this was before he had the big hits. Right. I'm sitting shoulder to shoulder on a piano bench with the guy, and listening to him sing. It's like taking a giant wad of chocolate and putting it in your mouth and go, oh man, is that good? I mean, it was just so incredible,
right,
to hear right next to your ear someone with that kind of natural gift, that instrument that he has in his throat. But anyway, the song "Still in Love with You" was pitched to a guy named John Kolodner, who is the most famous A&R guy in rock music, really. Guy who picks songs and arranges for producers and studios and whatever else. So he heard it and he liked it okay, but he didn't want it on the Cher record. And he said it wasn't rocking enough. So Michael went back in the studio. He asked me to help him, but it was my birthday and my missus and I were out on a date. So I can claim no responsibility for this. But Michael went back in the demo studio and played a bunch of guitars himself to make the demo sound heavier. Didn't change the vocals or the tempo or the lyrics or the essence of the song. Just gave it more crunch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And played it again for John Kolodner. He said, yeah, I really like this now. So, just kind of the oral landscape, if you will, once adjusted, was the thing that really made him say yes. And that album has done over 5 million copies.
Wow.
So amen to that. But that was another right place, right time. I've had a lot of those.
That's cool. That is cool. Yeah, we were introduced to a couple Cher stories from Ben Morrow, because he played in one of his funny moments, I think.
Yes.
Was when he didn't know any better. He said he just met her, and they went to introduce, and he's like, I'm not a shaker, I'm a hugger.
I know what it was.
And he
Cher would come up to her dancers, and
this was even before that.
She would hug them.
Yeah.
And Ben's like,
hug time.
I'm going to try this. So he sets his guitar down and walks down towards Cher and gives her a hug.
And she's like, what are you doing?
Right. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And with that, it triggered the rest of the band who'd been playing with her on a regular basis. They figured, if he's going to do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So he kind of got pulled aside, and the story kind of went like, hey, don't do that again.
That's funny.
But he started a chain reaction where the whole band and the dancer and everybody's down hugging Cher, and she's like,
Right.
Yeah. So, so that's one of our funniest moments on the show.
That's great.
But so it's cool that twice now Cher has come up on our show, and
yes, she has.
Actually, did she come up 3 times?
I have no idea, but I know it's at least twice.
Yeah, at least twice. So, but I mean, the artists that you've worked with, it's just what. Tell us a little bit about Kix. I mean, again, Jeff and I come.
He and I both come from that era of
the
of
80s
music,
hair band,
80s hair metal,
yeah,
hair
and that's
band, whatever
that's
you want to call it.
We've played that music ourselves since it was new.
Amen.
Yeah,
great. Well, Donnie Purnell, who was the founder, the leader of Kix.
Yeah, he was the bass player, I believe.
Yep. He and I wrote a lot of songs together.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a wonderful talent. And in fact, I will say that I recently produced a solo album that Donnie has made.
Okay.
That you really should listen to, but with the caveat that it's not a Kix album.
Okay.
The style is more in the sort of Beatles, Tom Petty. It's much mellower.
Oh.
He was not the lead singer. Steve Whiteman was the lead singer from Kix, who could really, do those screamy high notes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie doesn't have that. And so when we made the album, on which we used Robbie Spagnolletti, local drummer, to play all the tracks, and he was fantastic. we made sure that we left a lot of space for Donnie's kind of more acquired taste, sort of vocal, sort of like this kind of thing, and he's really good at it.
Right.
But you wouldn't have Bob Dylan be the lead singer of Guns N' Roses, just to get across the idea of the difference. And so we made an album called Hooray by Donnie Purnell, and we spent about 3 years on it through the Pando, because, and we never once even talked on the phone. He lives in West Virginia,
right,
and I'm here in Syracuse, and we just did everything on email and sending tracks through the internet.
Right.
But anyway, back to the Kicks days. We had, I think, 6 songs on the album Midnight Dynamite.
Yes.
And then I believe Blow My Fuse was the next one.
Yes, it was.
And it was, I think, only one song that we had on there, but it was the big song. It was...
Don't Close Your Eyes.
One of those. Yeah, Don't Close Your Eyes.
Yep.
Was a gold single, and was really the song that made them Kicks.
Yes.
In terms of popular
because
appeal.
Nobody ever knew them before that, and then that song hit MTV, and it was like, okay,
they had great hair.
Who's this new band? And then you got to go back into their catalog and find out that
Well, can you imagine what music would have done had we had the internet back then and stuff like that?
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
We
didn't have to rely on the label or rely on the radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
But Kicks was a great band. I saw them live a couple of times, and Donnie was the heartbeat of the group, and was not in the group these last 25 years that they played, and they just did their last show in September. I think it was
13th. I think it was.
Lucky number.
Yeah, that's when they they decided to retire and call it quits.
Kicks quits.
Kicks quits.
Yeah.
Headline. Some big names here.
And the funny part is they invited original members back with them to perform, but guess who was mysteriously absent?
Donnie.
Yeah, they didn't invite Donnie.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to put all your differences and BS aside to give the people what they want.
Yeah.
Just like when you get up and you're playing in a cover band and you're playing that song that everyone but you likes.
Everybody in the band hates it.
Everybody, but the crowd loves it.
The crowd loves it.
I'm not going to mention Enter Sandman.
No, don't.
Because that would be rude. But, I also see that you did some work with another local guy, with Rick Kua.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was working with Rick in 1983 in London when I gave the cassette of Some Heads Are Gonna Roll to the Judas Priest management.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the studio with Rick when Tom Allum, who was producing the Priest record, called the studio to talk to me about, we love Some Heads Are Gonna Roll also. So Rick and I are very dear friends, and I saw him as recently as, I want to say maybe September. We did a memorial kind of wingding for a friend who had passed away, but Rick was an original member of my group, Ceili Rain, and of course, before that, I was kind of his right-hand man for his whole Christian music career, 10 albums worth of stuff.
Oh, all right.
Because before that, Rick was with the Outlaws.
Yeah, from 1980 to 83.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how he got his record deal as a Christian artist, which started in 82.
Wow.
And then when he put out his greatest hits album from the Christian career, I think it was 13 songs on there, and 10 of them were ones that I wrote either with him or for him.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, very, very dear friend who saved my life a couple of times, I have to say.
Now, Peter Merluzzi has ties with the Kua family because Peter learned to play bass from Buzz, I believe.
From Rick's dad,
Buzz.
Buzz,
yeah. So I mean, it's just the world is like this. You know, if you really pay attention to it, I think that's what we're trying to exploit on.
Right.
From the Syracuse people that sit back and say, you know, what's ever good has come out of Syracuse. You have no idea.
No idea.
The good stuff.
A lot of stuff.
You know,
a lot of stuff.
So when you're working on your stuff now, are you still writing for others? Or are you just strictly focusing on Ceili?
Yeah, I'll say, guys, that you know, I'm not chasing the rabbits anymore, or the rats, or racing any rats. But
they're coming to you.
If I'm asked to do something, I'll do it. So when the day I met Pete Merluzzi, he was the road manager for Judas Priest, and Rob Halford asked me that day if I would write them another song.
Okay.
And I said, of course. And you know, when somebody says that, it doesn't mean that you're going to write something and it's going to land there. It means that, you know, you've been invited to take a whack at it, but the odds are, let's say, slim, you know, 1 in 10 or 1 in 30 or who knows.
Right.
So I wrote a song called The Lodger, and I sent it to them, and they loved it. And it had a sort of up and down journey with them. At one point, it's going to be on the next record, and then a little bit, we decided it's not going to be on the next record. But the last I heard, and, you know, we have the old saying, it isn't final till it's vinyl.
Right. There you go.
You know, which kind of applies again, right? Because people are doing vinyl. So The Lodger is a bonus track on the new album, Invincible Shield.
Yeah.
That's coming from Priest in March.
Yes.
And so I'm very excited about that. And that only happened because Rob said, hey, Bob, write us another song. And, you know, so it's kind of like that. If an artist or a producer says, would you? But as far as the current stuff, I'm not really up with what people are doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't kept abreast of 2023 styles, if you will. So I really wouldn't, you know, I don't offer myself unless I'm invited.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm invited, something usually comes of it. There's a blues artist named Guitar Shorty. His producer asked me, you know, 10, 15 years ago, write some songs for him. And I had, I think, 3 that they recorded on different records over the years. So, you know, but I do still write for my band, Ceili Rain.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have a new album. We say it's out. You know, what does that mean anymore?
Right.
It's available.
But it's available.
It's available. Thank you.
For your
we have a
listening
new
pleasure.
album available.
There you go.
Yeah, for listeners who are available,
That's
it could
right.
be a match made in heaven.
So, Bob, I'm going to jump right to it, man. I want to know a little bit. I know we could go on for hours about it, like you said earlier, but I want to know a little bit about your working with Icon.
Yeah,
because I was a big fan of that album.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, it was complicated in that, you know, when you work with young guys like that, it can be difficult to persuade them that what the older guy in his 30s is suggesting is valid, because the young hotshot guitar players are mostly interested in whatever kind of stuff that they do. And they may or may not have a real ear for songwriting. But I did have good luck. Dan Wexler was really the leader of the group.
Yep.
And he was receptive. You know, Pete Morticelli was their manager. Pete Morticelli had managed Duke Jupiter, whom I had worked with.
I love Duke Jupiter.
Wrote a bunch of songs
band.
with them that ended up on one of their albums. And so Pete, that having been a successful moment, Pete said, I've got this other group, Icon. They're hard rock band, hair metal band out of Phoenix. And they're on Capitol Records. So I made 2 trips out there to write with them, and ended up with, I think it was 6 songs
Really?
on the album. I think 2 were ones, Frozen Tears and
Great song.
Thank you very
Great
much.
song.
I love that song. Thank you. And maybe The Raging Fire might have been just me. I don't remember, but there were 6 songs.
One of my
And,
favorites from that album is Raise the Hammer.
Raise the Hammer.
Yes. See, he knows. I love it.
Chicka-chicka-boom-boom.
Yeah. Did
I
you
know
have a
that,
hand?
yeah.
Please tell me you had a hand in that.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
my title and my.
Oh, good.
I wrote. I don't know if I wrote the whole song but most of it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
That's
Oh, I'm
That's
so glad.
awesome.
Thank you. Amen.
Big
And
fanboy moment for you.
Well, the thing is they never got played on the radio. You never
Yeah.
saw them on MTV.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to this radio station. I lived in Skinny Antler, so I was pretty close to Rochester.
Yeah.
Raise your pinky when you say that.
Sorry, I was living in Skinny Atlas.
Welcome
Right.
off.
Funny.
And there was I could pick up a radio station out of Rochester. They had like a metal hour at night.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And they played the entire Night of the Crime album.
Mm.
And I'm like, I loved the first song that I heard, and I think it was Out for Blood that was the first one I heard that they had
I don't know.
actually started out with. And I quick grabbed a blank cassette and started recording the entire thing.
That's funny.
And that's how I'm like, I turned them on to my friends. And I'm like, dude, you got to hear these guys.
So
Yeah.
you single-handedly brought them to Syracuse because
No, I didn't
Yeah.
bring them to Syracuse, but I mean, there are some people in
Bring them
Syracuse that do know about them.
Yeah.
we had a problem
Sure.
in Syracuse with some of the radio stations. Just didn't,
Right.
it was a lot different back then.
It sure
you really
was.
had to be,
Yeah.
they didn't even want to play Motley Crue when they first came out.
Wow.
I'll never forget Lorraine Rapp. Remember they used to have the guest DJ, like Tuesday nights. They'd bring somebody in to DJ for an hour, and I was going to school for broadcast journalism, and I get a call from Lorraine, and she said, "Hey, the young man that was going to be on tonight is canceling. Can you come on?" I said, "Yeah, I sure can." And I had just gotten
That's great.
the Shouted the Devil album had just come out.
Oh,
And and I'd been a big Motley Crue fan since I saw him in California years before. So I said, "I'm going to play this album." She said, "No, they're never going to do anything." Mike, Syracuse, they're not going to like this
forget
kind
it.
of music. I said, "Let's just play Shouted the Devil." And then I followed that up with another unknown band at the time, Twisted Sister. And
Yeah.
she, again, another band, she's like, "Oh, boy, you brought some real weird music this time." And I said, "I'm telling you, these guys are going to be big." I saw them when they were, nobody's playing at the Lost. And now, fast forward this many years later,
Yeah. Yeah.
Lorraine, told you. I told
Yep.
you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now
I had to bring this. I had to bring the 10 songs that are on that album up. I for some reason, and I can tell you right off the bat, like Naked Eyes,
That's me.
that great song.
That's with Aquilino. I forget his first name.
Yeah, their singer at the time. I
No,
think.
Aquilino was the other guitar player.
The other guitar player next to Danny Wexler.
Yeah.
Danger Calling.
That's me. Danger calling out my name.
I'll take another shot at my heart. That was
Not
one of
me.
my other favorites.
All right, well, that one you can't ever listen to.
I can't. Nope.
Delete it. Delete it from your
Gone.
playlist.
You can't enjoy that any longer.
Nope.
You have to listen to it another
kidding,
97
just
times. They will send him a penny.
Yeah. Right.
I wish they were still around. I really do. I mean, I know
Yeah.
they.
Well, let's speak about why you never heard them on the radio or saw them on MTV.
Yeah, love to.
Too.
The lead singer was a guy named Stephen Clifford.
Stephen Clifford.
And what happened? So there are different elements to the story, but this is toward the end of the story, basically, in terms of their success or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Clifford woke up one day and decided to become a born-again Christian in a cultish
Okay.
kind of way.
Mm.
He cut off all his hair and he renounced his band and his band mates.
Right.
And quit the group. So it's kind of hard to tour a record when the lead singer is AWOL. You don't have the guy who sang the songs.
Right.
And he was, he was a tall, good-looking, charismatic guy with that type of voice. And that's what the record was built around.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was gone. Yeah. And they had spent, like, in those days, this was a lot of money. They had spent $300,000 to make this record. Oof. They had Eddie Kramer produce the record, who had worked with Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and various other people. Eddie Kramer was working on the mixes, and Capitol Records was not happy with the mixes. And Eddie said, well, let me keep working on it. And they still weren't happy with whatever he was sending them. And so it got to the point where Eddie Kramer locked himself in the studio. And by that, I mean he locked everyone else out and refused to be removed from the project. And he kept working on it and working on it. And finally, I don't know what, they had to get a locksmith or something
to get him out.
Yeah. And they gave the album to Ron Nevison to do the mixes. Ron Nevison, who worked with Starship and whoever else, a lot of the big names, maybe Hart, I don't know.
Yeah.
So they spent all this money on this record that they really believed in, and that I had 6 songs on.
Yeah.
And then Steve Clifford
decides,
disappears like a puff of smoke. And it just killed the whole thing. And, he was following his heart or his muse or his spiritual beckoning, or however you want to say it. But when I think about the tens of thousands of dollars that I didn't earn from an album that could have been a million seller, and me sitting with 6 songs on there, and it sold, 2,800 copies or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, and that's not the only one of those that I had over the years.
Who owns the intellectual property for that album now?
That's Capitol Records.
Yeah.
Okay.
Capitol Records. And
because I'm sorry.
I heard from Dan Wexler a few years ago, and he said, "Hey, we got the whole original 5 back together. You want to do some writing?" I said, "No, thank you very much." It didn't go so well the first time. So,
right.
And now I'm freaking 70 years old. Why do I want to mess around with and see which ones of them are going to quit the band this time?
Right.
So it just may they live and be well. But it just was one of those things that I put a lot of work into and time into, but also hope into.
Yeah.
And then to have it dashed by a guy just kind of, quitting the army and walking over to North Korea kind of thing.
Well, there goes that second question. I was going to see if you did any work with Right Between the Eyes with them, but I'm going to say no.
No, yeah, no, I don't even know what that is. But
it was the album that came out after that quite a few years ago, because they had gotten a different lead singer.
Yeah, no, I wasn't contacted about that, but I wouldn't have done it. And I stayed in touch. Steve Clifford reached out to me, and I stayed in touch with him. And then he moved to Nashville, and I saw him there. But what can you say to a guy? He had to do what he had to do. It wasn't my life.
Right. Now you're a big part of your career has been with Christian music yourself.
Yeah.
Did you ever think to write for somebody like, Stryper?
I didn't reach out to them. It wasn't a thing that I heard and said, "Oh, wow, this is really great. I thought some of the mainstream hard rock bands were better.
Mm-hmm.
I was never pitched by their people to write with them. So, for whatever series of reasons and happenstances, it never took place. But
right. I mean, I know there was a lot of really hard. They were probably the hardest rock that came from the mixed genres, but and I was a big fan. I mean, I just I thought the vocals were just
the vocals and
the harmonies,
the harmony guitars were just
I think they really believed the messages that they were portraying. They weren't trying. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's just a shtick and this and that." I'm like, no, I don't think. I think it's their way of life. You know, I mean,
well, you guys would know. You, I'm sure you would have the ability to sense authenticity,
right?
And I never gave it much of a chance just because I wasn't invited into it.
Right.
Sure.
And the hard rock stuff that I did in that world was really with Rick Kua.
Right.
And Rick being a baritone, so he has a much lower voice than I do. So it didn't seem as much like a hair band kind of vibe because he wasn't singing those high things.
Mm-hmm.
When I would write a song for him, we would have to lower it like generally 3 half steps for him to sing it. And it didn't make it lesser. It just gave it a different character. And almost none of the hard-edged groups had that deeper, like Elvis or Frank Sinatra, or, so many of the great singers,
sure. Right.
Bing Crosby, going all the way back for 100 years of pop male vocalists.
Right.
Almost all of them were baritones, sang in a kind of more normal male range. And then when the metal thing happened, you had to be a screaming high first tenor to even get through the door.
Right.
Okay.
As singer in those groups. So the songs that I did with Rick just didn't have that Striper or Styx or whatever kind of vibe because the vocals were pitched so much lower. And I don't know if what I'm saying is translating.
Yeah.
Oh no, definitely.
Absolutely.
I sing everything a half step or more down myself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, most of that stuff is just super screaming high, and unless that's where your voice naturally is, it's just impossible.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what was it like working with like Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley?
Gene was fun in the sense that he's all business, but he's also unfiltered. Like he's not a people pleaser.
Right.
He'll call somebody an a-hole, or he'll say whatever he's got to say. And it's actually a very refreshing aspect.
Sure.
I only ever worked with Gene over the phone, talking about projects he wanted me to work on.
Mm-hmm.
There was I want to say they were Japanese, almost like a boy band, hard rock band, and I can't remember the name of the group, that I had a lunch with at his request one time. But nothing ever happened with it.
Okay. So
with Gene, it was just phone stuff not about Kiss so much as about other things that were on his label or that he was producing or whatever it was. Whereas with Paul, we actually sat and worked on songs together. And the first time, Linda and I had an apartment on West 112th Street in Manhattan between Broadway and Riverside Drive. And it got around. My West Coast song plugger pitched Paul Stanley with the idea of writing with me, and he didn't really know who I was. He started asking around, and at the time he was writing with Michael Bolton. And Michael said, everything I've written with that guy is being recorded. He's good. So then we got the okay. So so Paul, it was arranged that he would come to my apartment. So that's a weird moment, right?
Sure.
One of the most famous. We're talking about, maybe a fanboy kind of moment.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I was really a Kiss person per se, but I certainly knew who the heck they were.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody knew who they were.
Right.
And so here walks into my apartment Paul Stanley, the muscle, hairy chest guy from Kiss.
Yeah.
And I, at the time, I was doing chin-ups, and I had, and the door at the top of the door jamb into our bedroom, I had the sort of hinges that the bar would rest in.
Right.
Yeah.
You take the bar out so you wouldn't clunk your head when you walk in the door, right? But you would put the bar in, and these sort of holders would. So the bar was not in there, but he saw the holders, and he said, it was really the first words that we spoke to each other. And he says, "Is that for a chin-up bar?" And I go, "Yeah." I'm thinking, wow, yeah, the muscle guy from Kiss.
Yeah.
Is, I've got now maybe some credibility because I'm doing chin-ups. He looks at it and he goes, "Lift my whole body weight with my biceps? I don't think so." So I was like,
Oh no.
yeah, it was
Right.
one of those cheapers. I thought maybe I was going to be in the club now,
Right.
and maybe not.
Right.
So he sat down, and I had worked up an intro, verse, and chorus for a song that I felt could be a great Kiss song. And I played it for him. And when I would do that kind of thing, I would play it around twice to give the person a chance to really let it sink in.
Mm-hmm.
So I played intro, verse, chorus, then intro, same verse, chorus again, and finished it. He said, "Man, that's good." Now, the difference between Paul Stanley and a Dan Wexler or a John Aquilino from Icon
Yeah.
is that Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, they want to have hits.
Yeah.
Right.
They've had hits. They're grown-ups. They're older than I am. They understand. They have the ability to hear a hit or what could be the makings of a hit. And they don't need it to be something that they did on the guitar in a flash moment of genius. They just want to be involved with it and have the hit for. So he got all excited and said, "Oh, that's great. Let's finish it." And so that song was called "Rise to It."
Great song.
Which will, thank you.
Yeah.
Which
great
was the song
Right.
that they made the video of.
Yes.
And it didn't do much action on the charts, but it was on MTV, and it was the first video where they took the makeup off.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was kind of a fun moment to be a part of. And
That's cool.
yeah, so he wrote the lyrics for the second verse, and he wrote most of the music and lyrics for the bridge.
Okay.
And I had learned along the way, especially with someone like Kiss, where, they're the guys. You have to meet them where they live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a teenage guy where you can take, come under my wing and I'll explain life to you. This is Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
So I knew to only half write the song. I knew to write the stuff that made it a hit,
Right.
Yeah.
because I wanted to show him that I could bring value to bring the stuff that he was in my apartment
Right.
to hear.
You
and
brought
see.
the ingredients. He put together
Yeah.
the pie.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I had to leave enough room for him to be half involved in the pie,
Right.
in the
Yeah.
finishing of the pie, which he would then eat.
Right.
So, you have to know how to do it the right way, rather than say, "Here's the finished song. What do you think?" Then, when they don't see their name on the copyright and they don't smell the money
Yep.
from the songwriting royalties,
Right.
bye-bye.
Right.
So you leave some space for them to join in. And so that worked out great. And then he said, well, let's try one from scratch. And this time I went to his apartment, and nothing really came of it. He said, well, let's get together again. So I went to his place again, and I had started another song, and I had exact same thing. I had intro, verse, and chorus. And he said, yeah, that's really good. Let's finish that. And that was a song called Read My Body, which is also on the record.
Yep.
And it had a like a rap thing in the verses. The chorus was, read my body, the letter's big enough. Read my body, do you like the book of my love? Etc. But the verse was kind of kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene and Paul decided, or maybe just Paul, said, well, we're going to get Tone Loc, who was like a hip, upper-level rapper guy from that period. So we're talking 1989-ish, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think once they got in the studio and they realized they would have to pay Tone Loc.
Tone Loc money.
They said, nope.
All of a sudden, Paul found his inner rapper and managed to eke out some rappage.
Nice.
And yeah. And then the funny thing at the end that I'll say is that, and I think this was Rise to It. And of course, this is before email and the internet and all that stuff, the late 80s.
Yeah.
And Linda and I are sound asleep in aforementioned 112th Street apartment. And it's about, I want to say 3:45 a.m. The phone rings. Back in landlines, there were no cell phones.
Right.
So, oh my God, somebody died or whatever. So,
right.
Oh, Bob, it's Paul. And Paul and Gene are in the studio, and they recorded the whole album in a demo studio in Hollywood. They're in the studio. He said, I want you to hear the mix. So, and, again, it's the guys from Kiss.
Right.
So
you're not going to be like, why'd you call me?
No.
Just couldn't wait till tomorrow.
I can't. Right. You can't really do that. Or
right.
I felt I couldn't. And so, and poor Linda, 48 years we're married. And the last bunch of years, thank you. The last bunch of years have been much better than that moment was.
Right.
Because she's like, oh my God, what's happening here?
Who did I marry?
Yeah. But they played me the mix down the phone, and it was nice that he wanted me to hear it, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, they were good guys. Paul was, a well-spoken, intelligent fellow to work with. And, I have all, warm feelings about them.
Good. That's cool.
Yeah.
See? Boom.
So you're also a professor at SU?
I was. For 12 years, I was an adjunct professor teaching songwriting, film scoring, a music business class, and a class about the Beatles.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I did 12 years from 2007 January till the end of 2019, and or 2018, whatever it was. And it was a great experience. Our David Rezick, who was a local booking agent for many years with DMR way back in the 70s and 80s, was the guy in SU who hired me, who brought me in. And it was a great, great experience, and a real blessing for me.
Dave's
cool.
Been very instrumental in helping put the name on Syracuse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I mean, when we look at nightclubs, and I've mentioned on so many shows, and I'm going to mention it on almost all of them.
Probably.
We give a lot of credit to Mr. Greg Italiano from the Lost Horizon years ago.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And that's
that
why
was a great place.
That's why Greg's picture is on our wall.
Homage to him.
It was like everybody's dream as you're growing up
to play the Lost.
Yeah, the garage band to say, once you've played The Lost, you've played on the stage that guys like,
Dokken, Quiet Riot, Guns N' Roses,
Bon Jovi, Kid Rock, Lita Ford,
Great White,
go
on.
Yeah.
And they've all played there. And to say that you're, hey, I got to sign that dressing room wall.
Yeah.
With the magic marker, you felt like you
made it.
But he, again, with guys like with Dave and Greg were good friends.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
together they put Syracuse on the map.
Yeah, Dave booked my group Pictures in there. We played, I don't remember if it was Wednesdays or Thursdays, but every week we played there, and it was ladies' night.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Apparently we were a draw.
And that's how Bob met his wife.
No, that was long before that.
Oh, okay.
Long before that. 1970.
He booked my uncle's band, Ivory.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, with
Dave Resnick, wonderful guy. I'm sure I'll see him in the next few weeks.
Oh, okay.
At a Pizza Regionale. We have an appointment.
Nice.
Very good.
Soon.
That's a gentleman we should get on the show.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
we should get him on the show.
Yeah, I think so.
There we go. There's my
your contribution. There you go.
Yeah.
I was going to say Paul Stanley, but I guess Dave Resnick would be.
I think David is more easily accessed. Than Paul.
Right. We would love to have him on
absolutely.
and to talk to some of the stories. I'm going to ask you, and I ask everybody, and I don't know, there's got to be something, but what's one of your funniest stories that you can tell, other than somebody locking themselves in the studio, in the business?
Well, my time with Ted Nugent.
Say no more.
Was interesting. I went to his home in Michigan. This was in 1984 or 5, something like that.
Right when he's here.
Yeah.
And I was there for 3 days and 2 nights, and slept in the Africa room. Basically his living room with all these pairs of eyes looking down on you.
Yeah.
While you're trying to sleep, an elk or a bear or a moose or a lion or
right. Not a vegan's dream.
No. And I remember getting there, and I phoned Linda at her office, and she said, "Oh, how's it going? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure. What are we doing, Ted?" And he said, "We're preparing a rabbit for the skillet, Bobby." Because he had a rabbit on the kitchen table.
Yeah,
he's hacking the crap out of it. and my whole time at Ted Nugent's, my whole plan was to eat dinner, not be dinner.
Right. Yes.
Because with the knives and the guns and the bows and the arrows, and there are a bunch of funny things, but the thing that really scared the crap out of me was, we didn't really work until like 10 o'clock at night. Both of the nights that I was there, and because he really didn't want to work was part of it, but he kind of had to because here's this guy from New York City, and let's put in some time. So, right. But we finished at say it was 2:30 in the morning, and we come back in the house. We were out in his a shed thing where he had his guitars and amps and stuff. Of course, he had the amp that went to 12.
Right.
Yes.
Because he was not to be outdone by
Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And so we came into the house to the Africa room, and I foolishly asked him. I pointed at the elaborate bow and arrows that were hanging on the mantle over the fireplace. And I foolishly asked him, "Ted, how does that work?"
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
So it's 2:30 in the morning. And he says, "Well, let me show you, Bobby." And he takes the frickin' bow and gets an arrow. And I'm right next to him. And he pulls it back. And I don't know what's going on, but there's been a lot of crazy stuff going for hearing stories about people he beat up because they offered him drugs and stuff,
right?
Or they spat on him from the audience, and he ran off the stage and jumped on their head, and so I'm kind of bludgeoned with these stories already, and I'm kind of scared to death. So he's got the bow, and he pulls it back, and there's an arrow, and he lets it go, and unbeknownst to me, there's a styrofoam target in the fireplace that the arrow goes into. So this was normal for him.
Right.
Sure. It wasn't normal for me. And
no.
I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus, for this, this arrow not piercing my side. It was really...
Well, I'll show you, Bobby. See how fast you can run.
Right.
Yeah.
You can outrun this arrow.
Well, you know one of Ted's famous sayings, you can't grill it till you kill it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
It's not final till it's final, fella.
Well, that too.
I'm glad he didn't grill me.
Yeah.
Now, that's a good story.
That is a good story. I like that one.
That's going to make one of the top 10s one of these days.
I think so.
Good.
So...
Now, I think we got his fanboy moment with Paul Stanley.
Was that the fanboy? Was that your biggest fanboy moment? Was Paul Stanley?
I guess so. Well, really for me, and it wouldn't necessarily be for you or your audience, but
that's all right.
My biggest fanboy moment is when I don't know if you'll be able to see this, when I met this guy. That's a picture of me meeting the Pope. Pope Francis.
Okay,
it doesn't get too much higher up the food chain on that one, except for the next floor up.
Level up is
that's
Yeah, I sang to 60,000 people at a papal event in Turin, like the Shroud of Turin,
right?
Torino, Italy, 8 years ago, 2015, and he wasn't there when I sang. He didn't arrive. You're kind of the warm up act. You try to. People are baking in the sun, and you're trying to maintain their will to live by giving them some sort of entertainment. But then the Pope showed up, and he gave his address, and I was sitting like 35 feet away from him, and it was very exciting. I didn't know if I'd be introduced to him. But the guy, Marco Bruzzati, who had invited me to the event, was in charge of the receiving line, sending people up to meet the Pope at the very end. And he goes, Bub. Like, I don't know what he means. And he goes, Bub. Like, and I'm thinking, okay, 3 strikes and I'm out. I better go over and stand where he's pointing to on the stage. And I did. And he took me by the arm and put me in the line. And my heart is pounding. Because for me, Pope Francis is the greatest person to grace the earth during my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And I had about 13 seconds with him in a 4-hand handshake, and this was just a couple of months before he was coming to the U.S.
Okay,
and he said, "I'm coming. Remember me," and by which, pray for me, or think good thoughts for me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, I'll remember you."
Right.
And then I went back to my spot on the stage, and I started sobbing uncontrollably. And Marco came over and hugged me because I think he was afraid I was going to vibrate right off the stage because I was so overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
Less so with Paul Stanley, but in music world, he was one of the big ones, certainly.
Yeah, that's
a great story.
Wow. I think the Pope that's got it.
That's what I'm saying. That was a great story.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Wow. Huh.
Hard to end on that note, but
how do you compare that? That's going to be the top one of all the guests.
That's it.
Like we said, he was at the top floor that we can get to without
actually going to the penthouse.
Yeah, the penthouse, exactly. And once you make it to the penthouse, it's like,
right.
As long as you're not going to the basement, you're fine.
Correct.
So just got to be good about it.
Yep.
Yeah. I've mentioned it, and I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but since you brought the Pope up, who was the which Pope was Polish descent?
John Paul II, I guess, JP2.
Okay. So a friend of mine who listens to the show, and he lives in Norway, I'm sorry, Denmark. Whew, he's going to be mad at me.
Yeah, he is.
Growing up, his grandfather was the Morton's fish stick guy. His grandfather owned that company, and he was from Poland.
Where are you going?
Just wait a minute.
Okay.
I'll get back to the Pope here. So he came. He was an immigrant from Poland. He made it big in the United States, and he would send just a large number of dollars every month, every week, back to his hometown in Poland. And when the Pope was ordained as Pope, he was from the same town.
Oh, wow.
And they were friends. And now he was looking for someone who spoke Polish and English to be his right hand. So my buddy, Sage, because of his grandfather, spent 2 years at the Vatican with the Pope as his English/Polish interpreter.
Wow, that's so cool.
And he got paid in the gold papal coins.
Oh, man.
He said, well, it's great because my family has these coins, but you can't bring yourself to cashing the gold in.
Right.
Because
Wow.
this is the Pope's gold. And it's like,
what do you do?
Because you get home and you literally have a velveted bag full of gold coins that might be worth thousands and thousands of dollars, but you just sit there and go, look. It's
you can't bring yourself.
Yeah, it's like Babe Ruth's rookie card that you're never going to sell, and it's only worth. But if you're starving on the street, even you're like, I'm not cashing these coins in. This is the Pope's money. So that's
awesome.
the big
Super
thing.
cool.
But so I know
JP
Sage
too.
is going to be listening to this.
Good.
So Sage, there you go. I got you on the show, and but he got you better. He sang for the Pope.
That's right.
You just carried his shoes. Although he did say, he goes, I got to work with the Pope, but he was the only Pope that lived traditionally minimalist. Didn't want to sleep in the Pope's real, fancy bedroom, and didn't want to.
Yeah.
He slept in a very humble room with like everything but a straw mattress. I mean, it was it was the most minimal room you'll have ever seen, and
that's great.
He's like, people say what they want about, but these guys, this is what they've given their life for the church and for God.
Yes.
So
he was a wonderful man.
Yeah. So there you go.
Amen.
There's a story for you to hear that you wouldn't have known unless you came on the show.
Right.
So
You guys, this was great fun.
I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask if you had fun.
Yeah.
And we would love to have you back on.
Wonderful. Oh, yeah. Anytime. Let me know.
That'd be great.
Anything you want to plug for Callie?
Ceili Rain.
Ceili Rain. I said Callie. I know it's a
new album.
Screw it
That's
up.
okay.
Ceili.
The new album, you have to hold it up
Yeah,
for
right.
the camera, right? It's
There you
called
go.
Crash This Gate. And Crash This Gate came out in March of this year, and it's, you can, leaving aside the physical product, it's available on Spotify and all the various platforms.
Right.
And it's our 9th studio album. The band is together 28 years.
Wow.
And
Still together.
I know.
so, there's not much else to say about it. It's not like it's a gold album or anything, or ever going to be. But
Shows around town anywhere?
not really. See, our group, they're 6-piece. It's me and Joe Davoli from Syracuse.
Right.
But then drummer in Cincinnati,
Oh,
guitarist in Nashville, whistle and pipe guy in Roanoke, and bass player in Baltimore.
okay.
So it's very expensive to just, turn the key
Right.
for us to show up. Just the transpo costs are prohibitive for a lot of the people who would want to have the full band.
Right.
So there's we'll do a trio show in March at All Saints Church, and it'll be Joe on fiddle and our drummer from Cincinnati, and I play keyboard, and I play like an electric bass sound in the left hand and piano sound in the right hand, and sing the lead.
Cool.
And so we've just had to figure ways to condense it so we can do shows and people don't go broke trying to have us play. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever have anything that you want us to promote, want us to put up on the, anytime,
please contact us.
We consider you part of the
family,
the good, the bad, and the ugly family now.
Yeah.
So
nice. Amen. I really appreciate that. That's lovely.
So we appreciate you being here.
We appreciate you.
Like I said, anytime, anywhere you want to get a hold of us, we would love to have you back.
And Bob, thanks for the icon stories, man.
Yeah,
that was great.
I got more if we need them.
Well, good. We'll have to. We'll just
we'll spend an hour on Icon.
Where is he now?
where is he now?
No, you can spend an hour on Icon.
Yeah,
and then you can get over it and come and talk on the show. Because no offense.
No, I got you.
But
yeah,
they did it. They did our.
I know.
They did our family member wrong.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Well, circumstances.
Yes.
Well, if everybody goes on Spotify and or Apple Music and you download all the songs we mentioned with Bob's name,
that'll help.
That will help.
That will help.
It might not get me to 40K, but it'll go in the right direction.
Hey, if you can at least afford a cart full of groceries at Wegmans, that's close to 40K though. 40K. So it's
right. I'd settle for a bagel.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Done.
All right, you guys.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike and Jeff. God
all
bless.
Right.
Great job, you guys. Really good at this.
Thank you.
Tell all your friends.
I will.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
See ya. There you go, Jeffrey.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. See, you didn't think.
Oh, no, I did.
No, I mean, you wouldn't think typically when we have someone that's so versatile.
Oh, my God.
It's like, wow, I hope we have enough to talk about.
I know. There was
but we
probably at least another hour or better to talk about.
Before we were just sitting here, and I said, we're going to run over. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's not. No, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
I know.
I'm always amazed by people that just have so many stories.
Yes.
So many stories.
Absolutely.
It's not always the guy strumming the guitar.
No. It's the guy that's behind the scenes that nobody hears about.
Yeah. I mean, he plays music and he's got a band and they do stuff.
Right.
But to
sit down and pen a song for Kiss, Judas Priest,
Paul Stanley.
Cher,
right?
Michael Bolton. I mean, come on.
That's crazy.
That's upper echelon.
That's
right
awesome.
There,
And then go sing for the Pope.
Yeah. Yeah.
He likes a big room.
He likes a big room. Bob likes a big room.
Big room,
sir.
Jeez. So you're not going to be playing at the Maplewood on Wednesday,
right? Damn it.
So there it is. There's our show.
That's it. We're done. We're out of here. Oh, my goodness.
Which one? J-Ro or the...
J-Ro, for
J-Ro?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't get enough love.
You've been listening to Good.
The Band.
The Ugly. I'm Big Papa.
I'm Jeff.
Hawk Medical Supply.
Sharky's Event Center.
DJ Life's Beach.
Good Nature Brewery.
Uncle Jimmy's Local Live Music.
The Print Shop Underground.
Toffee Break Toffee.
And Snarky Productions.
I always leave you with Snarky.
Bitch.
Hey, we went a whole show without swearing, and you just
That's
ruined
not a bad
it.
one.
Well, I'm just saying. I did not say one bad word this show.
Write it down, kids.
Tomorrow night, and we are definitely going to post this tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, Mr. Billy Sheehan will be on the show. Don't forget to stick around and come around and do it all stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Music's over.
It is.
That sucks.
Whatever.
Should I hit the button again?
Nah.
All right.
We're done.
Right now, they're watching this credits anyways.
We don't care.
You just want to try to get the last word. Yeah, you're a dick. Such a dick.
Recording stopped.